Hey, my name is Daniel, and over the past few years I've been working online. My plan was to be a digital nomad for a couple months. So a year ago I moved to Bali in March. My plan was to stay only 1 month, but that turned out to be a little bit different. I think something called a pandemic happened. And at the time I was staying with a couple other digital nomads in a hostel in Bali. And in March we were presented with two options. Either you fly home or you stay in Bali. It was a difficult choice for all of us, and we really didn't know what to expect, but I was one of the few that decided to stay. Now, in this video, I want to paint a picture of how it was during this past year, and I want to place working online in a broader perspective. Before coming to Bali, I was staying in my home country, the Netherlands. And over the past year, things have gotten pretty rough over there. I would say that the situation was way better in Asia the past year than in Europe. And I think it still is. The current situation in Bali is that basically life is quite normal. You see a lot less tourists, a lot less Australians walking the streets, so also a lot less tank tops. You would see that all the restaurants are open, most of the bars are open. You can go to the barber shop, you can take a massage, you can basically do everything. There's only a few rules in place, like you should wear a mask at all times. And over the past 2 months, all the bars and restaurants closed at 9 p.m. at night. But other than that, during the whole day, you can dine in, or you can take away, or you can let it deliver to you. And also, there are still some parties. Either the parties close at 9 p.m. or they go on behind closed doors. And also, you can go to the gym, you can visit temples, you can visit most of the tourist attractions. So yeah, there's still a lot of stuff you can do here, and life seems pretty normal. There's almost no limitations. The only requirement is that you wear the mask. Such a small thing in daily life. And we've been wearing this mask for almost a year already, so it's not a big deal anyway. Now I hear you wonder, like, what about the COVID numbers? Like, how many people are infected? Are people dying? Well, if I look online and compare the stats, I mean, there are way less cases and way less fatalities than back in Europe. However, they are not testing as much as they do back home. Maybe also one of the reasons for this is that the testing is not free and it can be quite expensive, especially for the local population. So I'm not entirely sure how valid those numbers are, or whether we can make a true comparison. But it would make sense if there are less cases over here, because COVID seems quite a seasonal virus, and Bali basically only knows one season, and that's fucking hot weather. And also a lot of life is happening outside, and a lot of rooms are open and ventilated really well. So maybe that's part of the reason why the number of cases is low over here. So yeah, I think COVID is less of a problem here than it is back in Europe. However, Bali is an island that relies on tourism, and there's barely any tourism right now. There were quite a few people who came from other islands of Indonesia to visit Bali for tourism purposes, but you can see that local businesses and restaurants are struggling. Most of the bars that used to be completely packed with people are now empty or nearly empty. So no, that's not really a happy sight to see, but I think that people who can work online and digital nomads who decide to stay here in Bali are still contributing to the local economy. And I think that's better than, for example, closing all restaurants and bars like they do back in Europe. At least they can get some income now. So I think that's good. Personally, and I don't mean to brag or whatever, but I've been able to save more money than ever by staying here. Not only is Bali way cheaper than the country where I'm from, but also due to Corona, there were quite some discounts on both rent, my motorbike, going to restaurants even where they have special promos. Like Bali was already cheap, but the places that are aimed at Western tourists are actually more cheaper now than they were ever before. So for 350 euros a month, I have a pretty nice house over here. Let me show you. So over here, you got the bedroom, my own private kitchen, a lounge area, and a shared pool that I share with 3 other guests. Don't mess with this guy. No, I think it's pretty sweet, and certainly better than what I would get back home. Let me put you back where you belong. So yes, looking back, I think I made the right decision to stay here in Bali instead of flying back to the Netherlands. But now I would like to take things into a broader perspective. And the point I'm trying to make with this video is not just about me. If I would have been back home right now, I would have faced a government who is imposing a lot of rules on its population. Right now, all the bars, restaurants, coffee shops, and nightclubs are closed. You can only invite one other person in your house, and there's a curfew, so that means that you have to stay inside after 9 p.m. All these measures turn us into less social creatures. It's almost as if we are not allowed to be social anymore. But meanwhile, here in Bali, people are still really social. People give hugs, people introduce each other with handshakes, and we can still gather in groups, and I can meet new people in coffee shops, in bars, in restaurants. Also, I can play football or go to a skate park and meet new people there. I think because of having all those options, I'm still relatively happy given the circumstances of having a global pandemic. While back home, I hear so many friends complain about their loneliness and about not being able to go to work and see colleagues and being forced to be inside and having to deal with the curfew and all those kind of measures. And people are really longing just to get a beer and sit out on a terrace. And right from the start, the Dutch government was already talking about new normal. But I think people don't even want a new normal. They just want to go back to normal, and as soon as possible. I just want to see my friends and give them a hug, even if they're a guy, no homo. I just hope that people haven't forgotten what it's like to be normal. And it kind of makes me anxious to go back home, to be honest. I mean, the Dutch government got pretty crazy with the rules, if I have to say so. But here in Bali is way more chill and people are relaxed. And yes, there is COVID, but nobody cares that much. And it's not really a daily topic anyway. Maybe it also helps that I don't watch Indonesian television. But I know that back home, every talk show, every news segment has something about Corona. And you see the number of cases and the number of deaths pop up anywhere. Over here, I really don't know. You can call this ignorant from my side, or maybe back home in Europe, people are making Corona way bigger than it actually is. So I want to conclude by saying that working online has given me freedom, and even more so in this situation. Being a digital nomad means that you can work beyond borders, and that's more important now than ever. Me being able to work online allow me to choose what kind of government I want to be governed by. And right now, it is a pandemic, but it could have also been a war, or a coup, or any kind of uprising that may make you want to leave your country. I think working online is your safest bet. Now, I'm not saying that everyone should become a digital nomad, but prepare yourself for the future and start working online if you can. Peace.